A South African evacuated from war-torn Sudan says the smell of death is something that's difficult to get out of his mind. Hundreds of people have died and thousands more have fled the country after fighting broke out last month between forces loyal to an army leader and those aligned with a paramilitary general. Newzroom Afrika Zola, Sholwana reports.
A group of South Africans who recently returned home from conflict-hit Sudan are struggling to get the sounds of gunfire out of their heads. Many sought shelter in their homes with little food and other essential supplies. Evacuee Warwick Morris has described the trauma of living through war.
It was 11 days we were stuck in our apartment. We started running out of food. I got voice notes that I was sending my folks from the rooftop. We were trying to see what was going on from the rooftop side because it gives us a better aerial view of where everything is. And in the voice notes itself, you can actually hear the bullets whistling past. Like I still said, can you guys hear that? And it was choo, 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 choo. The bullets came flying past us. So there was a lot of snipers as well on the roof. It became real. It became a very humbling experience. You realize the movies aren't anything when it comes to the reality of it. It humbles you very quickly. But the worst part was when driving out, that's when you saw most of the bodies, and there was a lot of civilians, children, women, men, soldiers. And it's not a pretty sight. It's not something you forget very easily. But the smell was the worst. You can probably, if you sit here now and you look, like I'm looking back and I remember it. Just the visuals, I can smell the stench. It makes sense. The smell of death was really, it's not nice.
A vets education graduate who went to Sudan for a job opportunity says she was confused at first.
There was a time when I tried waking her up in the morning, early hours of the morning, because I needed to drink water. So I said to her, when I was trying to wake her up, she jumped because she was freaking out. She didn't know what was going on. Literally, you'd sleep with one eye open because you don't know whether Sigmalin Hambe or whatever would sleep with like tracksuits and sneakers on just in case we have to jump and leave at the same time or whatever. So we stayed there for about 3 days. The husband was kind enough to drive me to the place that the buses were. I was bleeding on my right heel. I didn't notice until one of the girls that were with were like, "Hey, listen, you are bleeding." I was like, okay. I couldn't feel anything. At some point I was walking barefoot immigration near Egypt because it was up and down. We were with also Angolians that were told to stay behind, though they had passports. So after 12 hours we were allowed to go.
Hlamuga says she doesn't fully remember the extradition process.
They spoke about extracting us from whichever places that we were in. But I don't know where that ended because I extracted myself from where I was to the pickup point.
The evacuees say they felt a sense of relief when buses organized by the South African Embassy and the gift of the givers arrived at the pickup point.
But when we were on that bus, hey, Bluetooth speaker out, Shoza Loza playing, we were thrilled, we were happy as hell. Just to be out on the road, and that was another long journey. So, just a relief, man. Good to be back home.
So I came back with my toiletry bag, school bag, and a handbag. I left everything, and I mean everything, literally everything. Clothes. Most of my clothes, or all my clothes are there. Shoes, literally everything. I just had to take the most essential thing for me was my passport. One of my friends asked me, so listen, what else do you have? And I said myself, and that's the only thing I could save.
As the evacuees process the trauma of war, many are worried about facing the prospect of joblessness back in South Africa. Some say they'd consider going back to Sudan if the fighting ends. For Newzroom Afrika, Channel 405, I am Zola Sholwana in the East Rand.